You are welcome again to HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. We all probably know by now that R. Kelly was a victim of privacy infringement by the government during the time he was detained at the Metropolitan Correctional Center here in Chicago. And we also know that while the Bureau of Prisons officer who recorded and leaked his phone calls is known, until now she has been hiding in a disguised early retirement we believe came in handy to silence her, and hasn't been brought to book since. Fans of R. Kelly have since been demanding to know why the government chose to ignore this like nothing was wrong with the intrusion on Kelly's attorney-client privacy. This however shows that there could be some very influential people who orchestrated the whole R. Kelly takedown. Influential enough to cause early retirements of government personnel like they did this Bob official, and influential enough to cause the transfer and job change of government servants like they did attorney Angel Krull, the prosecutor who on record sent inappropriate messages to one of the witnesses, complimenting her body during the early days of her pregnancy, and was also involved in illegal soliciting of what was considered evidence against R. Kelly from journalist Jim DeRogatis. Whoever is able to force such changes in the system either works with the government, or has all the money needed to oil the system to perform their way. While the Bureau of Prisons wants us to believe that the officer who did this was properly retired like the media report suggests, the new truth according to HN investigators suggests otherwise. It turns out the truth is that she was simply fired and asked never to return to office, or to show up in the media discussing this matter. The good news is that our investigation team has been able to find the real truth of what really happened and will not be taking the false reports about this issue anymore. It turns out the Bureau of Prisons officer was all along working for the government prosecutors led by Assistant District Attorney Kim Fox, and for approximately 6 months managed to keep a clean sheet stealing private information and feeding the team of government attorneys. She gave them bundles of information in voice and text considering she has access to both phone calls and mail exchanged between R. Kelly and his legal team. She also shared information of who visited R. Kelly in prison, when they did it and for what reason. Grateful for the work she was doing, the prosecutors paid her cash money for her services at intervals, but not well enough to hit her short-term targets. She therefore got greedy and begun to think of other avenues for making money with this precious information she was illegally gathering. Greedy for more revenue, and Tasha K. greedy for more subscribers and followers on her social media channels, the two formed a perfect pair of buyer and seller, and their illegal business kicked off. According to our investigations, the BOP officer insisted Tasha K. twist this information she was giving her to make it her own, but Tasha K. couldn't resist the temptation to boast about being in possession of original R. Kelly prison leaks, and shared this information as a copy and paste. If Tasha K. copied an exam, she also printed out the name of the person she was copying the answers from. It wasn't long before all this was in the media, forcing the government to take immediate action which saw the official fired, and silenced never to comment about this matter to the media. The poor Bureau of Prisons official does not realize that what she did was criminal, and will likely be subpoenaed at some point to explain her actions, and to tell the whole truth of why she engaged in this illegal behavior. She should also know by now that the same government prosecutors she is protecting by attempting to hide in broad daylight will not be there for her when Jennifer Bonjean strikes with a lawsuit in this regard. It would therefore save both the defense's time and her own if she opened up on who deployed her, and for what reasons before the defense makes her do this. Like we mentioned in our previous video, the government likely used this illegally obtained information to determine who among the witnesses they could intimidate with threats that they would add their names to the superseding indictment along with R. Kelly's co-accused, if they refused to testify against R. Kelly. This explains the two contradicting interviews Gayle King had with Azriel Clary before she left R. Kelly's high-rise apartment in the Trump Towers, and that after the New York trial. Because Azriel Clary and colleague Joycelyn Savage were in their right senses at first before they were cornered by the prosecutors, the two confessed to loving R. Kelly and also passionately defended him. During this interview, the two women were being truthful.
What is your relationship, both of you, with R. Kelly?
We're with him.
But during the post-trial interview, their statements suddenly changed to suit the demands of the government which had cornered them in a sort of blackmail. What remains constant, however, is that both pre-trial and post-trial, the women confessed to loving R. Kelly still. "I still love him," they broke down in tears. This is because the only part of the story that needed to change was defending him to accusing him. The emotions behind, however, remained the same, and so they cried on the stand. No wonder the prosecution lead witness during the Chicago trial, Jane, made sure to message R. Kelly telling him to not let the devil win, but kept her communications private in case her blackmailers got to know. Testimonies made by witnesses in this state of fear are never truthful and should not be depended on to arrive at a judgment. Nevertheless, Judge Ann Donnelly and her Chicago counterpart Leinenweber did make sure to ignore all the red flags and proceeded to issue judgment. According to Lisa McRae, "I am so grateful for this and other explanations of how our government works. Both the bold, blatant, visible corruption, and the bullying of R. Kelly as though they are not held to the Constitution of laws themselves. They've abused R. Kelly in far many more ways than this alone. But this particular act was so bold, that it was just the break we needed to prove the government's agenda. To me, it's like the pin that popped the balloon, which would have floated away otherwise out of reach, and eventually out of sight. I believe that if this blatant corruption is not condemned in the appellate court, then it will be even harder to control corruption. The corruption in the R. Kelly case is multifaceted, and has been going on for years. The false tapes, the false marriage license, the false testimony, the bribes, the breaches of privacy, the witch hunt, the out-of-control disregard for his constitutional rights, and more. Finally, something occurred which might turn the Titanic. If this pin doesn't pop the balloon, then they have successfully abused R. Kelly as an American citizen. I hope and pray that the appellate court will make it crystal clear that they are going to be held accountable for breaking the laws that protect defendants from corruption." For a moment there I thought that the prosecution didn't have to answer for any of their wrongdoing, or concern themselves with obeying the rules. R. Kelly's rights have been trampled upon since the onset of the entire case. As his brother Bruce pointed out, we may as well be in a third world country. According to Laquita, when the government decides to engage in criminal activity and pretend like nothing happened, one wonders whether we still have a nation, or whether the U.S. has simply returned to the era of lawlessness when the government had the liberty to do as they pleased, even if they placed a citizen on the electric chair without sufficient evidence. We do not want to be reminded of those days, and surely, this should be corrected as soon as possible. If the prison's officer was innocent, why was she haphazardly retired? Why can't the government present her for a hearing so we can understand who she was working for? Indeed, there is a great possibility that this woman is quiet because she has been hushed by the government. We need answers to our questions about this matter, and we need them real quick. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.